Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session created for a gentleman that had a tough childhood with a lot of fights and aggression throughout his teenage years and early adulthood. And as a result of that, would quite often have intrusive or compulsive thoughts about fighting, even though he was much older and in a very different situation. And that was leading him to feel anxiety about not being in control as to the possibility of violence or fights or aggression. What you're going to hear in this hypnosis session is an element of dissociated regression where he got to go back to 3 different memories involving conflict and do 2 key things really. One, dissociate from the memory, which is really useful for any element of trauma. And with fights, there can be emotional and physical damage. There can be injuries as a result of a fight, and there were in a couple of the cases here with this gentleman. So by disassociating, observing himself as someone else, that really helps to kind of reframe the memory in a more observational way rather than experiential way. But also he was in this session able to rewind them in a more resourceful way and then relive them, firstly disassociated and then only associated at the point where he had confidence that his alternative version of events would be more useful for him. And what that does is it creates new emotional associations connected to a memory, which is really good for clearing trauma, and it's really good also for creating the foundation of empowering belief systems and new strategies. His fear was that it was almost inevitable for him to get into fights as an adult, without really considering that life had moved on since a lot of the coping strategies were created. You know, typically people do get in more fights, particularly if you're male in your teenage years and early 20s than if you're in your 30s, for example. So this was an opportunity to give him an ability to have a different approach where he could use confidence and he could use communication to diffuse and avoid conflict rather than escalating conflict to the point of physical aggression. If you're listening to this, obviously you'll be very aware that it was created for someone else. But if you do feel that you have anger issues, if you have anxiety around violence, perhaps because you also had a childhood where you grew up in a violent environment, then there will be a link nearby where you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call with me, and I can explore what it would be like to work with me directly. But equally, you might find this hypnosis session useful. And also just a reminder that there is around about £130, about $150 worth of free hypnosis downloads also on the link connected to this particular episode as well. So if you look in the show notes, you'll find that, and that's completely free. But for now, find a comfortable place, a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just get a sense that tension is leaving your body. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that with your eyes closed, you're able to process more information, more of my words turning into meanings, turning into powerful change. As you breathe in, notice that When you breathe in, feel the breath go deeper than your chest into your diaphragm. And as you exhale, allow the breath to go out longer than it normally would, enabling your lungs to completely empty. So much so that on the next breath in, you're taking a deeper breath in than you normally would. The more resourceful relaxation that you breathe in, the more tension, stress, and anxiety leaves your body in your outward breath. I want you to create an image of glowing, healing white light. I want you to imagine almost there's a spotlight, like you're an actor on a stage, shining on you, but shining this healing white light. And I want you to feel that it's healing your skin, healing your body, that it passes through you. Imagine you're surrounded by this healing white light, so as you breathe in, you're breathing in this healing white light, making you more relaxed and more resourceful. And as you exhale, feeling that tension, stress, worries, but anything causing any psychosomatic issues, anything where stress is contributing to ill health, anxiety is messing with your cortisol levels, just allow any of those things to leave your body in your outward breath, enabling you to not just feel more relaxed, but to feel healthier with each and every breath. I want you to imagine there is a giant bubble just in front of you. I want you to feel like you can touch it and feel that it's flexible, but it feels strong. I want you to notice that as you put your hand through the bubble, it doesn't pop, but you can't see your hand on the inside of the bubble. It occurs to you that anything in the bubble is invisible. I want you to imagine climbing into the bubble and noticing you can still see that healing white light shining down on you. You can see everything out of the bubble. Therefore, you are invisible in the bubble, and you can observe everything outside of the bubble. And this bubble can lift you up. I want you to imagine it lifting you up just half a meter off the floor, and feel what it feels like to be floating in a bubble that can carry your weight, but can also carry you backwards and forwards in time. And if you're ready to go back in time, to make changes that can improve your health, well-being, and confidence in the present, let me know by nodding your head. You're in this bubble. I want you to feel like you're floating up and you're traveling backwards, back down your timeline, into your history, into your past. Maybe you can observe key moments in your life as you travel back over your life backwards. And I want you to go back to a time when you were a child, maybe at school, and you got into a fight. I want you to go back to perhaps just 5 or 10 minutes before that fight even started. You're in the bubble, you're observing what's happening, and you can see yourself as a child at school. I want you to notice how you look, your facial expressions, how you're dressed. Become aware of how young you look back then. You were a child. You knew what you knew back then. I want you to observe all the events that led up to some type of conflict. Maybe you can't remember everything exactly, but you might recall certain key things that may have happened or could have happened that led to the interaction, the conflict. Look at your body language. Is it aggressive? Look at your facial expressions. Are you nervous or angry? I want you to notice who was around and who you were having the fight with. Then imagine watching the fight, seeing what happened, seeing how it ended, and realizing that it feels different when you see yourself like you're someone else. Then I want you to imagine rewinding everything. Rewinding it to before the fight even happened. Only this time, I want you to see yourself with all the knowledge that you have now. But I also want you to see yourself with confidence, no fear of confrontation. But I also want you to see yourself with the skills to communicate confidently in a way that can de-escalate, perhaps even avoid a situation. I want you to see yourself as someone that isn't afraid of conflict, but equally doesn't desire conflict. The attitude of this version of you is that you don't want problems, but you don't have a problem with problems if problems arise. And if you can see that childlike version of you with those attributes, that level of confidence, that willingness to avoid a conflict if possible, let me know by nodding your head. And then play it forward. Play it forward, seeing that version of you handle the situation as you would have wanted the situation to have been. And maybe it didn't even lead to a fight. Maybe a conversation resolved it. Maybe a different challenge that didn't involve a physical fight. Maybe you see yourself making a joke to diffuse and de-escalate a situation. I want you to see that scenario and then rewind it again. And then play it forward with you testing out different ways of handling that situation, but your intention is not to back down, but not to escalate either. To find a resolution that doesn't require aggression or violence. Allow it to get to the end, and then rewind again, and then do one more version of this. Play it forward, see that younger version of you. Nobody can see you there where you are. You're invisible. They can't even see the bubble. You're just observing a version of you from the past with additional resources and knowledge that enables you to handle this situation with more confidence. And notice that when you handle it differently, how much more respect you're getting from anyone watching. And when you've seen a version that you're happy with, that knowing what you know would have been a preferable way of doing it, then rewind one more time and then step into that version of you. You leave the bubble and step into that version of you, so you are now looking at the world through your own eyes back then in that memory. And then imagine it going forward, you in your own body, but the way that you would have wanted it to have been. Perhaps where you de-escalate. You maintain respect and confidence, but it doesn't go perhaps the way that it did go before. And if you're happy with this alternative version of that memory, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to update the beliefs and the insight you got from that moment, and then climb back in the bubble as we visit a different memory. I want you to go forward in time now, seeing you get older throughout your school years, and seeing the consequence of handling that fight differently led to a ripple through time where lots of other fights were also avoided. You figured out as a child that you can have respect without needing violence. And then I want you to visit a time where you were involved in a serious fight. Perhaps there were serious injuries or pain connected with this fight. And again, you're there in that bubble just observing what happened. See you at the age you were when that fight took place. Rewind it to before the fight even took place and observe your facial expressions, your body language, how you were at that particular point in time. And I want you to see what actually happened before we change it. You're just observing it. And if you observe something that didn't end the way that you wanted it to end, just let me know by nodding your head. And then rewind it and realize that you're wiser now, more knowledgeable now, and therefore we're going to have this same interaction as you would have wanted it to have been if you had additional resources. Those resources might be more confidence, more awareness, more communication skills to diffuse a situation rather than escalate a situation. See yourself with supreme levels of confidence. You don't need to use anger or aggression as a defense mechanism against insecurity or nervousness, because you're seeing yourself as confident, self-assured, in control, not of the situation, but in control of you. And then play it forward. Play it forward to see if this version of you could handle that situation in a way that's preferable. Allow it to pan out and notice that certain things are different. That by controlling you rather than the situation, you can't control the situation, but you can influence the situation. And if this version is better than the original, let me know by nodding your head. But then rewind and let's see if we can make it even better. See yourself with even more confidence, even more skills and ability that enable you to take this series of events and change it to a different direction. See yourself with the qualities where you're proud of that person. That version of you is someone that you feel like you can respect. See how that situation came out, and then rewind it one more time and see if we can improve that even more. Knowing what you know, how would you prefer things to have gone differently based on things that you can control? Your thoughts, your emotions, your words, even the choices that led up to you even being there to begin with. And when you're happy that one of these alternatives would have been preferable to what actually happened, let me know by nodding your head. And then rewind and then step into that version of you. So you feel what it feels like to be in that situation, and then feel what it feels like to do things differently as if you were in your body living your life back then with all the knowledge that you knew. You knew what would happen, and therefore you can make choices to influence that outcome. And notice that it feels better to live this memory where a different outcome is achieved. And if this feels like a better memory than the original, and you can take wisdom and insight from that, let me know by nodding your head. Then jump back into the bubble as we hover up over your timeline and then see all the consequences that happened after that serious fight. How many other serious fights were avoided? How was your reputation changed by the people that knew you? How did you feel about yourself? And then I want you to go forwards in time, perhaps maybe 6, 7, 8 years in the future, to a time where you were in a conflict within a relationship. I want you to accept the suggestion that for there to be conflict in a relationship, it requires two people. Even if one isn't an aggressor, for that to take place, it means that you are facilitating or enabling that dynamic to take place. There is no requirement to be in a relationship. If boundaries are crossed, you can walk away from a relationship. Or what could you have done even before violence or aggression was used to set boundaries as to what is acceptable and not acceptable in a relationship? I want you to observe a moment where things happen the way you didn't want them to happen, and observe it happening from within your bubble, just observing you at the age you were back then, and then rewind it. Rewind it, but see yourself with the qualities you would have wanted to have had in that situation. More confidence, more clarity, more self-assurance of being in control. And as you do that, then play it forward, noticing that the version of you with more choices, more options, the version of you that doesn't default to aggression or anger can have so much more choice as to navigating a situation. Perhaps there were triggers, things that were said designed to provoke. You can't influence those, but you can influence your response to those. Observe yourself not being so triggered. The traps that people set to engage people in conflict, in the same way that if you were walking down a street and there was a deep, dirty puddle, wouldn't you just walk around it? Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to splash into it, getting yourself dirty. In the same way that you would walk around a puddle, I want you to start seeing triggers as things that these are not invitations to jump in. These are opportunities to walk around. And observe that version of you at that age walking around those puddles, avoiding those triggers, de-escalating conflict. And notice that you seem so much more in control, so much more confident. And then rewind and try a different version with different strategies, different approaches, but each one giving you more choices as to what you could have done in that situation. And when you've seen a version that you're happy with, let me know by nodding your head. And then rewind it and step into that version. And then live that version through your own eyes with everything that you know now, but being the age that you were, relive that memory, that moment, living it as you wanted it to have been. And it feels better. And your mind is learning new lessons. Lessons that helped then, but would also help for anything similar in the future. And then it's time to leave this memory. But you leave this memory, and as you did with all the other memories, with the insight, wisdom, and value from those moments, get into your bubble, and then go forwards into the future. But even past the present, I want you to go forwards 5 years beyond the present and observe a version of you looking healthy, a version of you looking happy in a relationship. I want you to notice that your future has good things, and you can observe those good things, knowing that the changes that you've made from what you've learned from the past has prepared you to take your life in a positive, powerful, empowering direction. Some would call it hope, some would call it faith, or some would call it cause and effect. That when you take your life in a different trajectory, you increase the probability of experiencing the very things that you desire most. If someone plants a seed for a tree in their garden, can they really be surprised if it then turns into a tree later? The decisions you make in the present will influence your future. And that's no more surprising than when you plant a seed that something grows. In life, you reap what you sow. And when you do different, you experience different. And then float back to the present. Observe yourself exactly as you are, where you are right now. Leave the bubble, climb back into your body in the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body, all parts returning to the present, but with all these new strategies, feelings of confidence, fearlessness, and a sense of choice, flexibility, and self-control. I will now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling that a chapter has closed in the book of your life, and a new chapter is just about to be written. A chapter that you are the author on, and that you will decide what happens next. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.